Alright, let's get the show on the roll. A little late start up this morning. Alrighty. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, and welcome to our program this morning. Some of the titles are off base, again, pushing everything out, and not everything was set to run, but we're running anyway as time goes on. We're going to be on Google News right now. Michael Flynn's unmaskers may soon be unmasked as judge slows down bid to end his case. We know that General Flynn was being pressured into making certain admissions. Nothing new. Everyone knows that, especially the Democrats, right? All you Democrats out there and minority folks, you all know about that, being pressured to cop a plea, this and that, and so that's nothing new for you guys. You guys should know all about that, not act surprised or like in disbelief. And so this is something that we're seeing has been now coming out, the truth of the matter, as in all things, the truth eventually comes out. And it's very, very sickening. And again, like I've always said, people have to decide how much they're going to take. It's just simple. How much are you going to allow yourself to be maligned? How much or how long are you going to allow yourself to be duped by those who are pretending to be for you, to be defending your rights, to be looking out for you? It begs to question. Many of you have been, I guess you feel that you've received benefits and things from the Democratic side. Excuse me. So I asked then if that's true, and this is this is true here. What they've been doing with General Flynn and everything on against the GOP and Trump and all that. So what else is there that you've been hidden from? What else are they hiding from you? Well, how much longer are you going to allow your sensibilities to be abused? It's just a question, because I know there's sincere people out there people who are Christian, people who believe in God, follow God, who uphold the Christian morals. Um, until when are you going to be insulted? Allow yourself to be insulted by the actions of the left? I'm just asking the question because apparently a lot of things are done using your good name, your good position, your good philosophy. A lot of ministers out there who have propped up the Democratic platforms. How long are you going to associate the good name of either yourself, your churches, or your Lord with obvious, denial of rights, breaking of the law in this cause? I'm just asking. These are things that should be asked. So that's what's going on today. Also, we see that the Supreme Court continues. There's some arguments being had on us about the Electoral College. I believe that's going on right now. Again, with the questions of the Electoral College. Let's see click on this article and see what this thing's about. It says that the Supreme Court is set to consider today, a pair of cases involving the Electoral College and whether states can require its presidential electors to cast their ballots for the candidate who wins the state's popular vote. So basically, this is what's going on today. We should know and understand the role of the Electoral College. The role of the Electoral College was to ensure that the land also had a voice and vote in the government. When I say the land, obviously the land is not a person or an individual, but our country, and persons and individuals are directly connected to the land. It is also the land, not just the people. The land is what provides the people a place to live. It provides a people the identity of country, of nation. It provides the people food. It's where our farmers farm the land. The land is what sustains the people. It sustains the country. It is the economic engine of a country. All right. It is therefore that, like, the net value or self of the net worth of a country is its land. So you have populations that tend to stick together and huddle in certain cities that attract a majority of peoples. So obviously, you have these great populations in a metropolitan setting. That's the reality. Those settings do not represent the same factors and elements, concerns, needs, realities of those that are not in the population hubs. Therefore, in other words, the metropolitan areas create their own reality, so a different reality than the rest of the country. So you can't have a president of the populated areas who is well versed in what is the concern and needs of the population hubs, but is ignorant of the rural areas where the food comes from, where the value is, in terms of the nation and its laws and its basis. So the Electoral College was created to make sure that these rural areas where farmers are, where you have a farming family and no other family for miles around it, that they get represented, equal representation. After all, that land is needed to feed the population in the population hub. So the farmers should have. Why should they suffer? In other words, why should they suffer for lack of population when their value, their need, they're desperately needed by the heavily populated areas, exactly for there being more land than people, for the product of having more land under their management than people around them. So again, that's a different reality. Electoral college was created to protect that and to have that represented in the elections. And so now we have the situation where, and it's not the first time, but since everyone's against Trump in the populated areas, the majority of peoples are in that reality are against Trump. So now they want to rewrite the way the electoral college works. They want to play around with the electoral college so that the popular vote is the one that elects the president. That's what they're trying to do. And again, what's going to happen eventually? What's going to happen is that the popular vote is going to go hungry, because that's the eventuality. When you guys start doing things concerning just the popular vote and not recognizing the need for the breadbasket of America to be equally represented, then you have a problem. You're going to have problems, and it'll take a little while for you guys to figure it out, because you're not figuring it out yet. But when you start having those problems, it'll be too late. It'll be another one of those situations where when you figure things out, we would have gone too far to help ourselves. And that's what people are doing right now. The dumbing down of America is an effort to make us progress stupidly until we cannot get back safely. And that's the end of the story. All right, folks. So that's what's happening with that. Hopefully, sane minds will prevail. Okay, what else is in the news this morning? We have some interesting signs. You know, I'm a science buff. We have a new discovery or some more evidence, milestone evidence, as it says here in Quanta magazine, for anions, a third king, not onions, but anions, a third kingdom of particles. Here we go. You know, I've been talking about these threes that we find often in nature, and now the kingdom of particles has now revealed its third dimension, if you will. Interesting that there's always like three, right? Anions don't fit into either of the two known particle kingdoms. To find them, physicists had to erase the third dimension. Can you imagine that? So, every last particle in the universe, it says, from a cosmic ray to a quark, is either a fermion or a boson. These categories divide the building blocks of nature into two distinct kingdoms. Now, researchers have discovered the first examples of a third particle kingdom. Anions, as they're known, don't behave like either fermions or bosons. Instead, their behavior is somewhere in the middle. In a recent paper published in Science, physicists have found the first experimental evidence that these particles don't fit into either kingdom. We had bosons and fermions, and now we've got this third kingdom. Said Frank Wilczek, a Nobel Prize winning physicist at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. It's absolutely a milestone. So basically, what they're saying is that this third kingdom appears to be a byproduct of sorts, or a reaction, a interreaction between the other two kingdoms. It's something akin. It's not the same thing, but talking about things that people may know so they can understand what this is about. It's like when the Bible says that God made Adam from the ground, the clay, the dirt of the ground, and then he blew into his nostrils the breath of life, and he became a living soul. So, in other words, that the combination of the body, the physical body, with the spirit that God blew into Adam resulted in a third reality, a third dimension, if you will, which was the soul, a living soul, right? So it's not just the body, it's not just spirit, but something in between. And so this is a good way for you to try to imagine what this third kingdom is like. So so it makes it easier to grasp the concept. Okay, so what is an anion? It says to understand the quantum kingdom, think of drawing of loops. Imagine two indistinguishable particles like electrons. Take one, then loop it around the other so that it ends up back where it started. Nothing seems to have changed, and indeed, in the mathematical language of quantum mechanics, the two wave functions describing the initial and final states must be either equal or off by a factor of -1. In quantum mechanics, you calculate the probability of what you observe by squaring this wave function so this factor of -1 washes out. If the wave functions are identical, your quantum particles are bosons. If they're off by a factor of -1, you have fermions. And though the derivation may seem like a purely mathematical exercise, it has profound physical consequences. Any little derivation has profound physical consequences. And you have to also understand, and these are my comments now, that you have to also understand that the basics of everything basically, like computer, it's like you have in the binary system. It's just simple ones and zeros. I mean, it's just that the slight variation between a zero state and a one state is just simply that's the whole universe. So you have to understand it doesn't need much of anything really to create everything that we see. So that's is substantial. Just one little movement, just one little uh, difference is a substantial has substantial impact. Now it says that they never occupy the same quantum state. Because of this, electrons, which are fermions, get forced into a varied atomic shells around an atom. From this simple phenomenon arises most of the space in an atom, the astonishing variety of the periodic table, and all of chemistry. Bosons, on the other hand, are gregarious particles, happy to bunch together and share the same quantum state. Though, thus, photons, that's like the popular vote, thus photons, which are bosons, can pass through each other, allowing light rays to travel unimpeded rather than scattering about. But what happens if, when you loop one quantum particle around another, you don't get back to the same quantum state? To understand this possibility, we need to make a brief digression into topology and mathematical study of shapes. Two shapes are topologically equivalent if one can be transformed into the other without any cutting or gluing. A donut and a coffee mug, the old saying goes, are topologically equivalent because one can be gently and continuously shaped into the other. Consider the loop that we made when we rotated one particle around the other. In 3 dimensions, you can shrink that loop all the way down to a point. Topologically speaking, it is as if the particle hasn't moved at all. So, in 2 dimensions, however, the loop can't shrink. It gets stuck on the other particle. You can't shrink the loop without cutting it in the process. Because of this restriction found only in two-dimensional reality, looping one, which I'm paraphrasing, looping one particle around another is not equivalent to leaving the particle in the same space. So we need a third particle possibility, anions. Since their wave functions are not restricted to the two solutions that define fermions and bosons, these particles are free to be neither of the two, but anything in between. When Wilczek, I guess, first coined the term anion, it was a tongue-in-cheek suggestion that anything goes. Right. So basically, just goes to show you the amazing um, possibilities that is created when just simply the binary system is established. Basically, did you have one and you have another state, and then there happens a third. So this is an interesting article to read. This is in quantummagazine.org. If you guys are interested at all in any scientific anything, I would suggest you start your day with that one. That's a very interesting article, and the impact and the implications and applications are quite varied indeed. Okay, let's see. Scientists have spotted a super Earth planet in Earth like orbit. Oh my, we have a new planet coming up. It's a super Earth, meaning it's very large, and I guess a place for us to move into. These are so that's available in Live Science for you guys to look at. Let's see. You guys think there's extraterrestrial life? What's your thinking on that? Senate is groping along, looking at the next coronavirus package deal. Might mean another $1,200 for you guys since you already spent the one you got, and or you're waiting to spend it on some frivolous nonsense instead of becoming wealthy, which you all can do by doing the right thing. You guys really should be thinking smart about this extra money that's coming into you. Office, so all right, they're still doing the Trump taxes thing at the Supreme Court. It looks like right now we have a split on that, so we'll see how that goes on. Okay, and Joe Biden again talking. It says that Joe Biden has an edge on Trump in the polls. You know how polls go. You have to be careful about those polls, especially so early in the game, right? Joe Biden has an edge on Trump on the polls. But then the question in the New York Times is, so why are Democrats worried? Maybe it's a thing called reality. I asked this question just yesterday, didn't I? You know, these shows are so important because I'm giving you the insights with the commentary. And it's funny that the next day, then you start seeing that my insight the previous day is spot on. So you see, that's the point. Biden's their choice. They use Biden. They're still using Biden, but the reality is that they know that Biden's not going to pass the muster when everything is said and done. Is he really going to win the election? Do they really believe that? Really deep down? Okay, you got to understand that. You compare Biden with Hillary Clinton 2016. Just make the simple comparison. Okay, compare the excitement, compare the enthusiasm. Okay, I did. We again. What happened in 2016, and everyone thought that Trump was going to lose, right? And all the polls and the experts, there's no way he can win the presidency. Remember those professional experts and all the polls? Remember that? And the energy. I mean, even though Hillary had her issue, but she still went around. I mean, they were doing some campaigns and all that. Things were being done. But look, where's Biden? Even if Biden had a chance, but believe it or not, Biden is still being limited right now. This coronavirus thing is really hampering Biden's only chances of winning if he had any. He is, where is he? You know, and I'm not the same saying he should do anything different. It's just that he can't. There's no possible way for him to do anything different. It's just simply the way the cards are playing. Okay, and so again, if you hear anyone saying, "Oh, there's no way for Trump to win," there's no, I mean, anybody want to stand out there and look like a dummy? They can go right ahead. But at this point in time, that's really a nonsensical attitude and position to take. So I'm glad that at least the Democrats are worried, because it shows that if not all the Democrats, some, and I think the ones that I guess matter, they're worried. See, because they know the truth, they know reality, they know how things were last time, and they see what they see. Next item: Pompeo and Israel for meetings on annexation, virus, Iran, and China. So Pompeo's in Israel. There's a lot of things going on in Israel, folks. You got to keep an eye on Israel. After China, then look at Israel. These are the two areas you got to be focusing on in the next, I would say, year and a half or so. Just keep looking at both sides very carefully. Boris Johnson risks dragging Brits out of lockdown against their will. Cannot disturb their tea and biscuits. That's an outrage against the throne. So that's the British are going through their thing. So let's keep praying for all of us. This is not going to be easy. And I'll finish today. I got to go out and run some errands. But one little warning as we try to get out of this pandemic type of thing. China, I think it was yesterday, they reinstituted lockdowns in Wuhan and Suhan or something like that, some province, because the coronavirus has returned, another wave. And this is now 6 months after it started in China. 6 months later. So, what does that tell us? It tells us that 6 months from now, listen up, 6 months from now, we may be looking at a second strong wave of the coronavirus. And do you know what's going to happen in 6 months from now? It's called November. It's also known as the election day. And you'll see what the rest of the story will be. Take care, and God bless you. Thanks for watching and hearing, I guess.